Unreal Engine. Two words which most gamers associate with excellent, high quality, and highly graphical masterpieces. Is this assumption accurate? Hell no. In fact, it's one of the biggest mistakes gamers make today. Gamers who have minimal or zero knowledge of how game development works don't really understand what happens behind the scenes in the background. That said, a choice by the developer should always be made when developing a game, but sometimes that choice makes no difference. It's not the game engines that suck, it's the game developers. Game development has evolved dramatically in the last 30 years, and looking back, that evolution is not necessarily a good thing for the gaming world. Game engines like Unity and Unreal have become much more accessible to anybody who has an idea, a little time, and maybe a small budget. The internet is full of indie games on a wide array of websites, most of which are those small ideas that people have had. Whether it is little Johnny from across the street who hops onto YouTube to see how we can make a survival horror game, finds a crappy Unity tutorial and starts there, or whether it's Rupert from Harvard who has a degree in programming and learns CryEngine from scratch. Let's be clear though, I'm not saying all developers are bad, and I'm not saying that game engines aren't for casual gamers, but if you're going to take anything from this video, then there is one thing that you should take. The game engine is only as good as the people using it. Let's look at an example. Most people consider Unity to be inferior to Unreal, but this game you're looking at right now is made in Unreal Engine, yet it looks like a bog standard Unity asset flip. This game is made in Unreal. Notice the difference? Sure, there's a difference in budgets and probably developer time, but it's extremely clear that the developers of the second game know much more about utilising the Unreal Engine. The first game? What was it? It was Daymare 1998, a game most people probably haven't even heard of, a game many consider to be a Resident Evil 2 rip-off. But the ironic thing is, it actually started out as a fan project of Resident Evil 2. Stuff happened along the way, and we now have this. Speaking of Resident Evil, let's compare some of the other engines out there. The RE engine is a very capable engine. It looks great, but this is down to how the developers use it. They're experienced, they know it from inside out. If it were to go public, and you or I were to try and make something in it, we would never be able to achieve the same fidelity as Capcom. They would always be 1, 2 or 10 steps ahead of us in terms of understanding. What about the Creation engine from Bethesda, I hear you saying? Well, this is a weird one. Yes, it's an in-house engine, just like the RE engine, but it's based off of their Gamebryo engine, which, to be fair, was not exactly great, but then you have to look at perhaps the team isn't utilising it as well as they could do. Bethesda games always seem to come out broken and buggy messes, which indicates that they have no idea what they're doing. In all fairness, there is a stark difference between a Resident Evil game and a Fallout or Elder Scrolls game, but then that still comes down to developers and not the engine itself. The engine didn't code those bugs in, an overworked, underpaid programmer did. Games don't always have to be graphical masterpieces, and it's not how games should be judged, but making the right decision when selecting an engine is vital. And this is probably the number one mistake aspiring developers make. You should never assume that just because you're making a highly realistic game, you should be using Unreal, or just because you're making a 2D side-scrolling game, you should use Unity. When creating graphics and models, it's not even the game engine which is technically used, it's modelling software like Maya, Blender or 3D Studio Max. These are just some of the examples. If the models look realistic when being created, they look pretty much the same in any engine. It's then just down to how it's used in the engine itself. Things like lighting, shadows and optimization will always play a huge role. Like I said earlier, the game engine is only as good as the people using it. If the people using it are highly experienced, they've been using it for a while and understand everything about the engine, then naturally they're going to be able to utilise it far better. If you take some of the videos that Unity releases, they look absolutely fantastic, and that's because they understand the engine more than anybody else out there. But that doesn't mean to say that a casual standard gamer can just pick up Unity and start using it and get to the same kind of level. Just keep that in mind the next time you're playing one of these awful looking games on your PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Switch, or anywhere really. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to see more just like this.